Yo, everybody, it's Heat Override, and I'm ready to bring the pain for you this week. Oh, yeah, you ready for it? I had a little bit of time off. I did create some podcasts. I released those. I'm going to release another podcast with this podcast. You're getting a dual podcast tonight release. I've put together, this over the past week because I've been on other podcasts, Flying Casuals podcast, and, of course, the Rebel Scum podcast. So, without further ado, let's get to it! Oh, yeah! So let's get to it!
Bring the pain!
What up, everybody? Woo! Alright, this podcast, we're talking about the fantasy football, mostly seasonal fantasy football, in the grueling weeks you have to put in to be a great captain. I mean, it was a crazy year. We had the Coronamania messing with a lot of things, but hopefully this episode, a lot of you can relate to, and a lot of people that can't relate to this episode, hopefully you can relate to it. So that being said, I was really trying to do this episode with C. Ray, but she's upstairs doing a live paparazzi right now, and right now, honestly, I'm down here.
Ooh, yeah!
And I want to bring the pain. I want to talk about it. So going into this fantasy football season, I had a couple offers. I was offered a dynasty team, and then like a DFS seasonal team in a league, which were kind of like coincide hand in hand with them together. Also, I had another fantasy team. Of course, I've been in this league for plus 10 years. It's my buddy Keith. So, I was in that. And then I was in my old time, a Mcdonald League. You'll hear me call that out. I have two of my own leagues that there's a trophy for. So, all in all, technically, I have 3 paid seasonal teams, the Dynasty, K's League, the KFFL, and then, of course, the McDonald's Football League. I've got that. And I've been in, like I said, that one I've been in since like 94, 93, whatever, 94. So, that being said, we're going to get right to it. So, why fantasy football means so much to me, and hopefully it means a lot to a lot of you, is that it's just about watching sports. It's about watching a sport that you love, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, hockey, and taking players from different teams, not always your own team, can't be a homer, because if you checked out We Nick That in Time podcast, my boy Nick, get your shout out, my brother, man. Get you right there. Said he just picked too many players from the Panthers, and then there was other Panthers fans in the league, and then they were all fighting over the Panthers. So in the end, when it became Panthers off week, he literally had like 5 people to put in. Even if he went and did all the pickups and stuff like that, he couldn't drop what he had. So, there's all different types of captains. You got your 10. Everybody's already did their 10 fantasy captains. I'm like the strategic captain and like the insane, crazy captain all at once. I'm the guy who makes it fun. I go to the party. I keep the talk going. A little bit of shit talking. Yep, we do. Because that's what we do. We bring the fucking pain. Oh, yeah. And at the same time, we also have fun doing it. We like eating the food. We like doing all these super crazy cool things. So that being said, I want to talk about that. So we had Coronamania to deal with this year. So a lot of my leagues didn't want to do it, then they had to do it, then they wanted to do it, then they didn't know if they should do it in person, if they should do it over, a Zoom, or if they should just do it over the app, which I did it anyway in all ways and every way this year, people. That's what I'm talking about.
What?
I said that's what I'm talking about.
Ooh, yeah.
So, this year I started out, I had, like most fantasy owners, you get your knack for the players that you want. And then you gauge where you're at in the draft, try to look at the other owners and see who they're going to pick, and then you go from there. Now, that's where all the fun begins, because you never know who you're going to get. In the end, I ended up putting together some great teams. I actually have a 6 team that I excluded on that too. That championship I got screwed out of, so we're going to talk about all these championships. And the ones that I lost, the ones that I had great teams that lost in the first round of the playoffs because they fell apart at the end of the season. You know, a 10-3 team can be a third-place team, can be a fifth-place team if that's what's going to happen, because the fantasy teams just, you change them throughout the year. People get hurt. You end up having to be a waiver wire hero. And that's the thing, is you have to make sure that you're an active captain if you want to win a championship. Yes, some people do get lucky. And you know what? A lot of people don't like it when y'all get lucky. Just because you pick at the beginning of the draft and you got a couple great players and those players ride you to the end doesn't mean you did anything great, brother. Ooh, yeah. Greatness is doing it during a year like this. You talk about how hard this year was. Man, yeah, we got some other pickups, but in the one league that I took third place in that I'm going to talk about, I needed more than 10 pickups because there was just times that a bunch of people had COVID and I had to put some junk players in there. And when you put a junk ass player up in there, you know, I'm not saying this dude ain't more skilled than me and whatnot, but at the same time, you're not getting your full potential as a team. You know, you're not. And I had that opportunity for that team to go head to head, and that team actually lost, and other teams won. So let's start it out. Let's start out with my oldest league, the Mcdonald League. So I was back and forth all year. And this is a great league. It's a 10-team league. All the cats in this league are smart. They know how to play some fantasy football. Every single one of them. We've all been in the same league pretty much, and do other leagues, since 1994. Now, I know that when I got into it, I was 17, and you could say, well, you know, getting into gambling, or whatever you want to call this, which this is not gambling. Yeah, I did put money up, and I could lose it. Well, you do that when you do a scratchy ticket. You do that when you buy something and you don't use it, like meat. If you don't use meat in time and it goes bad, well, you just gambled with that meat. You threw away $5.99 a pound, which is some of the going rate right now during the Coronamania. And at the same time, you also, you know, you just got to deal with it. You put the money out there. Whether it's a good meal or bad meal, whether it be a good team or bad team, that doesn't mean that you lose. So in this league, plenty of times I've come back with a losing record. I've had a losing record going into the playoffs. Check that out, people.
Hell yeah!
So I fought all year long. I had a great team. Finished second in scoring. I finished second in scoring with a 7-6 record. And you just play the hot teams sometimes that week, you know? You score 122, they score 123. Nothing you can do about it.
Brother.
But, you know, you put your best effort out there. So, we go into, you know, I finally get to the playoffs, and I had to string together some wins. I had to beat some top teams to make the playoffs, and I beat them all. I crushed them. And then I get to the playoffs, and I get that first round, and I'm like, all right, I'm a little scared, and I waxed the fool I waxed him, I think, like 120 to like 60, which average score in this league is 75 to 80. So I was well above the average, and I crushed him. And I'm like excited. I'm like, yep, now I got a chance to win some money, no matter what happens. So I get to the next game, and I'm playing the number one team. And guess what? I just beat him weeks prior. Well, things didn't work out for me. I scored 122 and he scored 123. And the other game was like a 70 to 80 game. And I'm like, come on, man. We're just getting their championship. So, moral of the story, I go on and I get to the next round and I lose. So I take fourth place in the league. Nothing. That's all right. I had some money from the year prior for placing. So that's cool, you know, and that's what you kind of do is like, I give myself a few leagues that are paid and usually one or two of them hit. We'll get to that. And it's just great. It's amazing because, you know, you just always have that like honey pot, keep going around, stirring it up, and it just stays sweet. So, you know, I got to it. I lost, and I lost 85 to 75, and I had DeAndre Hopkins going. I had Kyler Murray going, and Goff was on the bench. That ultimately would kill me. I had a quarterback that didn't put up, and I had to go up against Rodgers. Roger put up 30. My guys put up 6. So I scored. If Kyler Murray throws DeAndre Hopkins that's touchdown, which he did, but he didn't hold on to it, and that's the play that banged him up. See, I know this because, of course, I watch the games.
Ooh, yeah.
And I know my sports because I'm an avid sports fan. I'm an avid football fan. That's what I do. Ooh, yeah. So, I get to this game, and he didn't do it for me. But you know what? I shake my head. I finished fourth. I was better than a lot of other players. I was second in scoring. That says something. And, I just got caught at the wrong week. Sometimes you get caught at the right week. Sometimes you get caught on the wrong week. Whatever it is, it's about what you go with it. We'll roll over to my ESPN and my Yahoo League because these are mostly with the same kind of people, which is really cool. And the ESPN's a 14-team league and the Yahoo's a 10-team league. Rules are pretty much the same. Heavy defensive players. You got your IDPs, flex. I went super flex in the ESPN league, and ESPN cannot do. I hate ESPN the way they do the super flex with the team quarterback bullshit. That's some fucking stinky shit, bro. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Where's the chips?
Hell yeah!
So anyway, sorry about don't mind her. She's just coming in here. She's lost, looking for things, See Ray's upstairs on that. So while she gets some stuff, we're going to get back into this. So both those teams were kind of cool. Back to ESPN, your system sucks. Yahoo has a better system. So, yeah, I had great years in both those leagues. Finished third in one. Got beat by the person in my division going in to that last game, and he had his division record, put him above me, and I had to play week one playoffs. And guess what happened? I got bounced. Man. And it was a hard match, even though, I got to go for the third place game, and it was fun, but, I wanted the trophy. And the Yahoo League was the same thing. I actually literally had the best team all year. And then they kind of fell apart at the end there, I guess, just with the injuries. Now, some of these teams right here, we'll give you a quick rundown of them. So, on this ESPN League right here, where we got the Macho Angeles Painbringers. All right, so I had Rodgers, Goff, Carson, pretty much I had Dalvin Cook, Cooper Kupp, a bunch of players like that. My defense was, Aaron Donald. I had Bates at safety. I did have Mixon on this team, but, he was hurt the whole year. So I had Giovanni Bernard. I was covered there. I had Mike Williams as a backup. But mostly this is about Cooper Kupp. And this team was about Carson and Cook and then, Mixon. And it didn't work out that way. So, that being said, I was a little weak at receiver. My tight end were both Rams tight ends, was Higbee and Everett, because I know how the Rams kind of play with that. But overall, the double quarterback system with Goff and Rodgers and then having those great running backs and then the backups was good. It was good for a 10-3 record. It just didn't happen. So we'll flip over real quick to another team that I placed third in, but these teams were trading. This league, they allowed trades to happen. I was second in scoring by 2 points, and I did this team with C-Ray, and they allowed trading. So what ended up happening is there was a trade in the first round for Derrick Henry. Then the other team drops Derrick Henry and a couple other players, right? And then the guy that I'm playing, who's 4-9, picks him up. Like, seriously? That's bullshit. Like, I sat here, fought all year long to come up 2 points short in points scored. And then the championship game that I should have been in, I scored 201 points. And the guy who's 4-9 wins the championship because it's an 8-team playoff, shouldn't have even been in there, and gets all the trades and beats the other 10-3 team. And what was funny about this is a one-team loss, a one-loss team and a two-team loss got bounced in the first round. And then the next round was like, so I bounce out. And then I got this. I scored 201 points, man, with a team I drafted. Let's talk about that team right now, because this is what fantasy football about. The Cardinals quarterback, Falcons quarterback, Chubb, Jones, Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson, Rob Gronkowski, Cam Akers, Jeff Wilson. There was only 4 on the bench. Cooper Kupp, Eric Ebron. Now, we had a tough year. We lost Chubb for most of the year, but we put it together and everybody played it good. Okay? That team was hard to keep together. We fought hard every week doing starts and everything like that. You know, and the other quarterback, I had the Giants quarterback. Yeah, it was pretty bad there. But going into the season, I thought Matt Ryan would have played a lot better. Kyler Murray kind of choked out at the end. It's what happens to small quarterbacks. I mean, they just get hit too much, apparently. I mean, look what he did. He came back in yesterday, still couldn't do anything. Rams defense is that legit. So, yeah. So a couple third-place finishes, teams that could have finished it off. I mean, a little skeptical on that one. And then I'm going to go over to, we'll get over to the Mcdonald League real quick. We'll kick that. I'm not trying to lose y'all. Just stay with it, people. Come on. Just let's keep it real. And let's go to the Mcdonald one since that's the one I talked about first. And all right, here we go. So I had Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Darren Waller, Le'Veon Bell. Unfortunately, I did draft him, but I had Nyheim Hines, Goff, Antonio Brown, Crowder. Crowder was really like my flex player all year long when he wasn't hurt. Justin Jackson. I had Williams for Green Bay, just to back up. Boston Scott, Evan Ingram, Michael Gallup. Carlson, Rams, and Pittsburgh Steelers defense. It did not get that through. Did not put it all the way through. And that's just what happens. That's okay. That's okay with me. That's what. So yeah. Now, the one thing that you have to remember is this wasn't an easy league. So in the McD's league, the 10 pickups just killed me. I needed people at the end of the week to pick up. Like, what ended up happening now, I got bounced in that game. I could have been in the championship game. Was the guy's team literally caught COVID and was hurt. And then he had Will Fuller got suspended. He had nobody. So he goes to the waiver wire and he picks up Tony Pollard. And Pollard happens to go over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. That just sucks. Bring the pain! But I did it. I had fun. It was great. And now we get to the 2 fun leagues. So I won't talk too much about the seasonal DFS Fun League. I was back and forth at the beginning of the year. I screwed up myself. And we went on a couple of trips that we always talk about on our podcasts. And I came up short. I came up a few points short. I finished 4th in that league. I don't know if there's a payout or not, but hey, whatever. If I do get paid, I get paid. If I don't, I don't. I put up a modest score, took some weeks off, threw in some crappy lineups because I was out of the country, and yeah, it just happens, man. So that being said, let's get to it. Oh yeah, the fantasy rules. So you got to think when you go through a full season, you're sitting there watching your teams win or lose, heartbreakers, and you're like, all right, well, if the Rams are going to lose, at least let DeAndre Hopkins get a touchdown. Okay, well, if this guy's going to lose, then at least put somebody in. Okay, this team's getting blown out, man. Come on, let's get something going. Throw it. Why are you getting blown out by 20 and you ain't throwing it to your best player? Like D-Hop or, Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley, all these players. Like, why are you not throwing it? It made no sense at all, people. What? So you're sitting there and you got to remember that everybody goes home a winner from draft day. Even when ESPN and Yahoo send you your draft grade and they say you sucked, which I did post. My draft grade was supposed to be 10th in one of my leagues and I finished 1st. Now how you fucking like that? Ooh yeah. Hate it or love it.
What?
I said hate it or love it.
Ooh yeah.
So, you get that next feeling. You're like, okay. So then you have some teams that are doing really good. Like, I had an unbeaten team to, like, week 9. I had a 9-0 team. And I was like, man, this is getting easy. But that team ended up losing, too, before the end of the year was done. And when there was teams close, and I had to put together. So I started making moves. Like, you feel really good about yourself when you go right to the waiver wire and pick up somebody like Pollard that week and whip my ass and shut me up, okay? But then I feel pretty good. I went to the 1 week, And that's where I found the Philly linebacker. Oh, man, I can't even remember his name right now. But anyway, Singleton. Alex Singleton. I put him on my team. First week, 20 points. Yo, that boy balled the rest of the year. Balled the rest of the year. Even in his worst game, which was my championship game, I think he had like 10. Like, come on, people. It just, that's what it's about. That's what makes a complete team. It's all about doing your research, doing your things, knowing that, watching the football, watching the player. Always use your eyeball. If someone looks like they stink, most likely they stink.
Hell yeah!
So, you know, like a lot of people could have moved on from Zeke this year. Zeke was bad, but there's a lot of people in keepers leagues that'll keep Zeke hoping for next year. No, brah. You see what it's like when it gets bad, and he signed a contract. So if it's bad there for a long time, and I know Dak is coming back, you know, good luck on that journey. I know you're still going through it. You're going to get there, brah. But at the same time, you got to look back into the other things too. Is like, this is all stress on your body. You're thinking about your money. You're thinking about doing this. Most of the time, people play these things. They play DFS, like myself. Some don't. Some only play DFS and not seasonal. Hey, that's the way it goes. But you do go through a heartache. And most of the time when you go to somebody, hey, what's it like without fantasy football in your life? Oh, it's great. It's great because they don't have to worry. They don't have to be like, okay, I'm down by 2 points going to this game with a tight end. I had to pick up this week, or I've got this lead. Yo, one time a few years ago, I was 0-5, and I thought my season was done. And then I was 1-5. And then I was 2-5. And then I was 3-5. And then I was 4-5. And then I had a really, really hard game to go 5-5. But I did it. I went. And you're just thinking, like, when you get to that hump, and you're just like, oh, it's like this thing's being lifted off of your shoulders. And a lot of people don't understand what that's like. A lot of you people that don't go into fantasy sports and do those things don't understand what that is like. We are talking about, like, this is stress, and it's self-induced stress because, yes, I am the one who paid the money to put myself in a position to make sure that, like, hey, I'll win, hey, I won't. But it's about the party and having the good times and getting around the guys and talking. And for my McDonald's League, that's the only time all of us all get together. Other than, like, some of them getting together and a few friends here and there. I don't get to see them. We live different lives, people. So,
brother,
that's why it's so imperative to know that, to understand some of the stress and to understand that some people don't like it and some people just don't care about it. So we go through this whole year with the Dynasty team and, my KFFL team. And, it's going great. I'm the number one team. And I stayed number one all year in the Dynasty League. I was number one. I was number two in scoring. And I was right there with the number one scorer, like, literally. And in the KFFL League, I slipped to second place and almost could have went to third place. So that's stressful knowing you was the number one team. And then you just like, oh man, someone got lucky. And then I'm like, oh, well, how's this player with this team with this players? How are they even a 2-loss team? So then you take another loss, but then you get to play that person. Then you beat them. You're back on number one. Then your team has a mishap. Just injuries happen. COVID-19. Bullshit. All that fucked up individualistic crazy things you had to deal with this year over other games. Yeah, I swore. So what if I swore? You know what? I have an explicit at the bottom. So if you have not read my disclaimer yet, you need to go read my disclaimer. Just let you know, the pain bringer is a beast. And outside being the pain bringer, I'm just a humble, nice guy. It's cool. But hey, man, don't piss off the Heat Override, because Heat Override will bring the pain. A little sidetrack there. So yeah, I sat there and I was worried. And then I looked at my Dynasty League and I was like, man, I'm worried, man. Lost another game and I'm like, man, I'm a game ahead of this dude. Well, you know what? Everything worked out. 1 week, everybody that needed to lose lost. And it put me ahead, gave me my first number 1 seed in that league, and I was able to secure that. And then in the KFFL league, I secured the 2nd overall seed. So I get a bye. I'm not even playing this week. So believe me, it was great after all that stress at the end of the season, losing some games, getting some close, knowing that you were only up by a point, seeing all the playoff formats. Because one thing you should know about seasonal fantasy football, baseball, basketball, whatever you play, you better go check those stats. Because some players work better with some scoring than other players. And even though that might be the number 1 player, being like Mike Trout, somebody like Paul Goldschmidt could outdo him that year because, he just works it differently. So we get to the championships, and I'm like, all right, well, let's see who makes it. Well, I see that I gotta play literally a really great fantasy expert in both leagues, especially one Brad. Brad's really good. Me and him talk all the time, like, hey, if these guys can't wait to take over the draft, what do you think about this? He's one of those guys. He's articulate. He knows how to draft and to make a great team, and he had a great team. So let's walk through what happened with this game real quick, okay? So while this game is starting, this is the game to go to the big dance, okay? So I start out beginning of the week with my Waller. Now that team I held off on telling you about. So I'm gonna tell you who my KFFL team is, right? So I had Josh Allen as quarterback, Aaron Jones. I had James Conner. I had DeAndre Hopkins. I had Cooper Kupp. I had Waller. Deontay Johnson as my flex. The Rams defense and Carlson. Carlson, scorer all year. That's what we do. But, I had Chiefs defense. I had Alshon Jeffrey. I had Benny Snell all year for, pickups. I had, Goddard just in case I need, I had that backup for Waller. And what ended up happening was I got to this game and Waller and Carlson go off. And immediately, I'm like, oh, here we go. And I'm like, got a big lead. So we'll take it back to, round 2. So we get there. We got Matt Ryan versus Josh Allen, Derrick Henry versus Aaron Jones, Melvin Gordon versus Snell, Calvin Ridley versus Hopkins, Robert Woods versus Cooper Kupp, Tonyan versus Waller, David Johnson versus Deontay Johnson. I don't know why this all kind of like matched up in some ways. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of funny. Baltimore versus the Rams defense, Gano versus Carlson. I start with Waller going 150 touchdown and Carlson for 9 points in this game, okay? So immediately you're like, well, damn, I got me a win. So then comes Saturday and you got Matt Ryan, who never does bullshit, actually puts up 33 freaking points in this league. Like, Matt Ryan been putting up, like, no points in this league the whole year. He puts up 33 points, and I'm like, And then Melvin Gordon with his 61 yards and 2 touchdowns, putting out that 23. And then Calvin Ridley, of course, 10, 163 touchdown. All right, and then we had Tonyan that night. And Tonyan went 3 for 18 and a touchdown, and he caught that touchdown, and I'm like, no! So now I'm stressed. Now I'm really stressed. But, of course, I had Aaron Jones go 145 and a touchdown in that game for 28 points. I also had Josh Allen go for 359 and 4 total touchdowns for a 40-point whopper. So, as Sunday's happening, now this is where Woods is out doing Cup, and now I'm like, okay. And now we have this whole Steeler game against Cincinnati on Monday night. How much would they play? What's going to happen? So, I ended up going back on it, and I'm like, I'm going to keep Snell in there. I'm going to keep Deontay Johnson. When I went into this game, I was down 198.7 to 163 points. And I had 2 people. It's possible. It was. So, you're watching this game, and mind you, think of the mind frame I'm going in. Now, this is no excuse, and if you say this is because you're a gambler, remember, my heavy gambling in my heavy sports playing and seasonal teams is football. After that, basketball and hockey, I just kind of float through the seasons. They always have start everybody. You hit that button, and that's all you do in those leagues. And then you make pickups when accordingly. So, we get to it, and I'm like, man, I don't know. It's going to be hard. So then, they run Snell. It's like 2 yards. I'm like, okay, 5 yards. Okay, this is good. Need a lot of those. And then Deontay Johnson catching ball after ball. Then he does this route, and he goes out of bounds and just lays down. And I know if you know what I'm talking about, like you were watching the game, like I was watching the game. I'm like, no! Fuck. But guess what? He got up, he came back in that game, and about a play later, that's when he caught that touchdown. Hell yeah! Oh, now we're cooking. Now you're cooking with the power, huh? Yeah, get the machismo going, huh? So, you get this, you're like, wow, look at this crazy, crazy, crazy thing going on. It's awesome. It's great. I'm still down by a lot. Well, what do you know what happens? Well, let me tell you a little thing. Cool thing about that touchdown was, it got me closer, and now I started thinking, okay, now Steelers getting ahead. Here comes Benny Snell. So comes Benny Snell, He catches a pass, and he went 3 for 23 in receptions and 18 for 84 on rushing yards. But they get down to that goal line, and I was like, I just need Benny to go over 100. Just give me a 16-yard run. I'm going to win this game. Now, mind you, right at this point, I am at 196 to 187. And the Bengals commit a penalty, and it's a 1st and goal. And we know how all these go. We're like, okay, Ben's going to throw it in. Ben's going to lurch it in. Whatever he's going to do, he's going to just ruin my fantasy day. And then Benny Snell isn't going to come back in the rest of the night. And game's over. I lose. 3rd place for me. So I go and grab Chrissy's shaker bottle, because we have a shaker bottle for Rams and Steelers. And I start shaking the fucking shit out of this thing. And yes, I did say fuck a lot. But I was trying to channel everything into this. I'm like, you gotta go back over the whole season, the whole time. This one play defines everything I have done this entire season, ever since taking over this team, ever since Kevin, number one team after number one team, lose in the damn freaking game and go for 3rd place. I finally fucking was in the position, and I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go. Let's fucking Snell. Let's go, Snell. Let's go. Snell touchdown. Yeah! Woo! Oh, yeah! The feeling going through me. The excitement. The monkey lifted off of my back. Finally going to the championship game in the KFFL. Machos Hitiados. Ooh, yeah. So much stress. So much hurt. So much everything. And guess what happened? 202.5 to 198.7. Cheers, mate. Going to the championship game. Of course, some of you may have caught that video, and it's a very highly controversial video, but like in my other snippet that I'm going to release, my other 10-minute podcast with Chrissy Ray, she defends me 100% up and down. She doesn't care. And she saw nothing wrong, as mostly anybody that didn't see anything wrong with it. Yes, there was beers in it, but those weren't mine. I had one that night, a nice 25 ounce. I was way too stressed to be doing that. Why do I put myself through that much stress? I don't know, but I did it. And I won, and that stress became euphoria. It became the nectar of gods. It became godlike, if you would say. Because winning is everything. And losing hurts. It hurts. And I mean, that was a hell of a semifinal championship. I mean, come on, people. Look, in the other semifinals, 138 to 110. Why couldn't I get a little walkthrough? So unfortunately, both brothers lost that round. And, you know, I was freaking out. Mind you, when this game is also going on, I am maintaining a lead in the Dynasty League. The guy had Ebron and TJ Watt, Hayden, and another defensive player, right? Ebron got hurt that game and did not come back. He did not even have a catch. And guess what? I won by 2 points. 2 points. If he plays that game, catches one pass, I most likely lose that game. Instead, they threw the ball to him. He got hurt. He came out. See what I'm saying? The fantasy football gods were shining down on me. But they were ready for the pain bringer. So mind you, while I'm waiting for this touchdown to go on, I still have some plays to go. I gotta hope that TJ Watt don't get a sack. I gotta hope Hayden don't get an interception. People, stressing is real. It sucks, but it's fun and it's worth it. So let's move along now. Let's move along. So we get to the next one, and the guy I beat put up 51.6 in third place game and won by 20 over his brother. And it sucks because now let's go to this one because he could have beat me in this week. So I get there. We got, last week we got Josh Allen at New England. He just balled them out, 42 points. Now, mind you, this is who he's got. Lamar Jackson, Austin Eckler, Zach Moss, Godwin, Brown, Antonio Brown, A.J. Brown, Robbie Anderson, Pittsburgh's defense, and Zerline. I have Josh Allen, Aaron Jones, decided to start Le'Veon Bell. Don't ask me why. Mind you, I should have went with Jeff Wilson Jr. This would have caused me some not so much stress, because believe me, this one was stressful too, people. Was stressful too. Instead, I had all those people on the bench. I even benched James Conner. He put up 15. Jeff Wilson put up 32. Bell put up 5. So, we got Lamar with 25, Eckler with 15, Zach Moss 57 yards and touchdown. That was, I will talk about that real quick, right? Godwin 16, A.J. Brown 63, Antonio Brown 11.5, Anderson 13.4. This man rolled up touchdowns with every single one of his players. The Pittsburgh defense with 29 points. I'm scared, people. I'm scared once again because I'm down. I'm down big, and he had Zach Moss. I had like 90 points, and no, I had like 95 points or something like that. And I had only Josh Allen. So I'm like, he can do it. So, here we go again, people. Josh Allen throws. Wide open touchdown. Dropped. I think Davis dropped it. Then the second one is dropped by Knox. And I'm like, no! Now, mind you, this is where Buffalo goes up 21, has 21 points. Zach Moss comes in, touchdown, Zach Moss. It's like a double dagger to the heart, people. I can't even tell you how much I was about to cry. I was like, oh God, it's over. I'm just going to lose, whatever. I'll get second place. Okay, whatever. I'm ready. And then Josh Allen launches a 50-yard touchdown to Diggs, right? And I'm like, when that touchdown happens, we get a bonus multiplier. So I'm like, all right. Look, if Josh Allen just goes over 300 yards, I could beat him as long as there isn't no more Zach Moss. Mind you, they did put Zach Moss in at the end of the game, so there's more stress for that. But let's get to this. Josh Allen literally won that game for me. Fucking won that game for me. He brought me the fuck back from obscure nothingness down by like freaking 30-some points, people. And then he had Zach Moss put 13 on. I won 149 to 145.1. My dude took me to the promised land. He got over 300 yards. He got 4 touchdown passes. He had 4 runs for 35 yards. He did it all. He took me to the promised land. In another league, he probably should have took me to the promised land too. He didn't. Whatever. I get that. But I'm telling you right now, listen to this. What he had. Aaron Jones, 94 yards, no touchdown. This is the A.J. Dillon 152 touchdown game, which really, made me angry. Because I'm like, I just need a touchdown from Jones. I need a touchdown from Jones. They weren't doing it. Bell, 5.1. DeAndre Hopkins, 8 catches, 48 yards, 8.8. Like, how do you catch 8 balls? You don't get a touchdown, right? Cooper Kupp, 8 catches, 66 yards, 10 points, no touchdowns. Waller, 5 for 112, 16 points. Deontay Johnson, my dude, 8 for 74 and a touchdown, 17 points. Rams defense, 24 against Seattle, even though they lost. Still rang up enough points. Carlson, 12. Yo, people, I had no help. You know who won that for me? The Rams defense, Deontay Johnson, Darren Waller, Carlson, and Josh Allen. Everybody else helped throughout the year. But I was screaming. And then this boy has Zach Moss. And then, of course, Buffalo was just running it. They stopped it. They punted. There was no time left. I won the championship! And in the other league, the same game was going on. I had a 3-point league in my Dynasty League against my boy Doc Roto. My long time, you could say like my mentor. He's like the first guy when I first started listening to SiriusXM. He would call in. I was like, oh man, I love this Doc Roto guy. And he would never be on all the time. And I would just be like, I want Doc Roto, more Doc Roto. So I call in, talk to Lenny Melnick and Tony Sincata, doing the things that you got to do. And then finally, I got a hold of Doc Roto, and he's like, oh my God, this guy's just crazy. He just talks a lot. And like y'all know that. So he's just like, this guy talks a lot. He's at this, he's got that. Bam, bam, bam. Not going to say thank you, man, because I took the championship. And I'm like, I'm up by 3. He's got Poyer for Buffalo, and I've got I got the New England guy, Adrian Phillips. So they're both great players, but I got 3 tackle lead ultimately. I won this. I ended up winning. Poyer ended up getting hurt. Fantasy gods, I swear to God. Fantasy football gods, was shining down on me these last few weeks. I won by 6. Now, what I'm telling you, people, is I go through a very, very hard season. I fight very hard. I do take my fantasy football as part of my pride. Like, I'm good at it. I think I'm good at it. If I don't make the playoffs, last year I was 8-5 and I didn't make the playoffs because there was just a tie of 8-5 teams. It just happens, people. But again, the euphoria, the end. So here I am. I placed first in both those leagues. I placed 3rd in a couple other leagues. I placed 4th in that DFS weekly league, which was really fun. Wish I'd had that come back because I probably could have got at least 3rd or 2nd. And then, it comes back to, I think the Kamara game ended up blowing that out, but I played a lot of Devontae Adams and Diggs at the end of this week. So I got, 3 touchdowns each from those cats last. Really helped me out. But going into it, and then, of course, just taking 4th place in the Mcdonald League. My finish rate is crazy good. It's about putting yourself in the position to win that game and the stress that goes through it. So, yes, maybe my video, the video that Chrissy took was distasteful to most, but I don't think that when people step back and look at it, I'm cheering for sports. I was shaking my wife's shaker bottle trying to channel the fantasy gods to give me a break or 2, which they did. 2 people got hurt. It happens. And you see the ultimate goal. You see the cheering. You see the stress, only to have more stress the next week. Only more stress. I had 2 players. I was down by 30. I had 1 player. I can't tell you, people. I can't tell you enough how much that meant to me. how much it meant to some of my friends. They loved the video. Everybody loved the video because it shows the true meaning of seasonal fantasy football. How in 1 minute, everything can be lost for them. And how in 1 minute, everything can be won by me. The guy that most people hate to hate. But he's simply the pain bringer. Ooh, yeah. Wait till I walk in to get that championship belt. Because in that league, we got a belt. So I've always wanted the belt being the Machos Hichiatos. And what's really funny is this one dude, Matt, last year was like, Rob, you just gotta come dressed as Macho Man, dude. You gotta just come dressed as Macho Man. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I did it last year, or this year. I did it this year. It is last year now. But I went spinning into that garage, babe. Ooh, yeah. And look what happened. But that's not why it happened. It happened because I got some luck. Thanks to the fantasy football gods. It also happened because I put together a good team. I fought through all the COVID, double Monday games, the Tuesday games, the Wednesday games, making appropriate changes and playing it safe when I needed to, like a good captain should, to make sure that his team was put in the best position when the time came, and then that position came on a first and goal, on a snail dive for a touchdown, and then I win everything. Like I've said 500 times this podcast. It's a crazy, almost 50-minute podcast. But I wanted to convey, I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to talk about my season and how fun it was, why I'm going to do it again next year, because all the money I won this year, guess what? Paid for my next year too. And that's what fantasy football is about. So that my family this year is stress-free from fantasy payouts. That's what it is. And during these times that I'm, I'm hitting this money on DFS too, I'm dialed in. And you could say, well, you're dialed in as a bettor, as a DFS guy, as a gambler. You're a sick thing. But most people that do this can't drop it like I can. I dropped it, okay? And I did drop in that 4th place DFS weekly league that I was in. I dropped the ball 3 weeks in a row, went to Niagara Falls each time with my family because we hit big. So, you got a lot of that. You got a lot of this. I can't tell you, when this is up there. I mean, the Benny Snell, that was up there. That was up there with the Rams Zerline kicking the field goals to beat the Saints and to tie the Saints to go to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Okay? That was more stress than that right there. I was on the stairs late, and if you ask me why am I doing that, I don't know. But I know there's a lot of people in this world that can say I can relate, and for those people, I thank you. And for all of you, the heat overwrites, the pain bringers in this world that supported us, I mean, you're going to hear on this 10-minute podcast with Chrissy, and then this one, that she was behind it all. She stood by me. She watches football with me. We have a few beers. We shake the shaker bottles. We have fun. We laugh. We watch our fantasy teams. We put bets in live, trying to win money so that we can make our lives better, that we can somehow get ahead of the game and make that. When all is said is done, I probably made as much as a 25-hour part-time job for a year in fantasy winnings this year. So you can say that I'm doing things wrong, but I'm doing things right. And I think that that's the drive and the motivation that I need. And that's what I do with fantasy football, is it provides that camaraderie. You don't see me and my buddies balling every week, going down to the local field and playing football, or to the local court, or my buddy's court, be Reckless's court and play football or basketball. One time, we were so happy we had played football all winter, and we were so happy to play basketball, we incorporated free throws as a football game. No lie. If you made a three-pointer and, you could pass up doing, your shots, and you could just run. You could run. Now, it was 3 of us playing. It was my boy B and my boy Stroop. And I just ran them both over and scored extra points. But that's how we did it. And that's how we had fun. And that's the camaraderie that fantasy football, both DFS and daily, seasonal, can bring for you. And I've said this. Said it over and over and over again. Okay? My DFS winnings go all to my family. And when I'm cheering there and screaming the F words and maybe hunched over a table or, just stressed the fuck out, it's not because I know I'm going to lose something that my family needs dire. I just know if I win, I'm going to win something that I can share with my family. And nothing is better than that. And you can shove all that up anybody's ass because this is the pain bringer. And the pain bringer says, family first. Everybody else just falls by the waist. That's why I shoot from the hip. And that's a Pot of Thunder quote. Take it out, boys. That's how we roll it. And I got to say this as well. No disrespect meant to people that don't understand sports or just don't watch the football, the basketball, the baseball, and the wrestling. Oh, yeah, the wrestling. Yo, man, I've bet on wrestling in the last couple years. I don't have a gambling problem because when I turn it off, I go ghost. It's one of the biggest reasons I think that I may have passed up a lot of opportunities in my life, maybe writing for a sports team, a website, maybe just not dedicating my life enough. I don't dedicate my life, but I dedicate enough to win championships and bring my family money. That makes things easier. We were getting into Christmas and money was getting tight, and I hit big, and then I hit big again. So, we ended up buying our new dog Lila with that. We ended up taking down a nuisance pine tree. I didn't do fun things with that money. I did home things with that money. I took that money as an extra beacon to further my family, my home, my retirement, my everything. Because in the end, like I said, that's all that matters to me. Everybody can have an opinion, and you know what? I'm doing mine for my family. Your opinion is invalid because when somebody does something for their family, it's greater than the universe. Oh, yeah, people. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, boy.
Very special treat from a very special guy. A guy who has dedicated his life.
It's time for things that make me a jerk.
It's time for things that make me a jerk. And it's why people might hate me. But it's just the pain bringer. Good old Rob P is your boy. Pain bringer, the angry dude. Let's get to it. Things that make me a jerk. I just won the championship. Motherfuckers, guess what? I won. Hate me. Because guess what? My family's number one. And that's things that make me a jerk. Yeah. Oh, things that make me a jerk. I'm going to be a jerk when I come spitting in there like the macho man looking for the belt. Yo, I'm going to be a jerk. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to talk about being the champ. I did a podcast about being the champ. I did another podcast about being the champ. Guess what? I want to do more podcasts about being a champ and talking about the stress that fantasy causes. When people bring it down, bam, things that make me a jerk. Oh, you guys thought I was dumb, like I spend my money dumb. You thought I was a slow learner. Guess what? I've been doing betting for a year now, and I'm profitable, more profitable than the DFS side of it right now. Just like my DFS lineups. Good old double up, triple ups, quads ups. Maybe I'll win like a 60 burger, 100 burger. Right? Boom. No, not man. I could play so easy in prop betting on both DK and FanDuel. Yeah, I'm a jerk. I take advantage of it. It's a system. I know this man's gonna catch more than 5 yards. You know how many freaking bets I won this year? Well, 5 yard? How are you gonna do that? Nope. Cashing, straight cashing. And that's things that make me a jerk. Things that make me a jerk is because I don't care. The number one moral of this story is love sports. Fantasy football is stressful. Any fantasy sport is stressful. It puts us through a lot. But in the end, when you become champion, or you take some money from it, or you get a nice $2,000 hit, then you know that you will always bring the pain. Ooh, yeah. Have a great night, everybody. I hope you have some fun. And tune in. I got so much more. I'm going to do some live podcasts coming up. You know, those are the ones I'm actually kind of normal on. So, let's kick it out. Ow! Champion! It's YOLO ride. So, let's get to it.
Bring the pain!
Ooh, yeah.
Bring the pain!